Hi friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and I'm gonna do this video in real time and I'm gonna do some glimmering because in my last flip video I put out the question to see if anyone was interested in me doing a glimmer video where I kind of talk about my process because I don't often do the glimmering on camera for my flip videos or really any of my videos where I'm using a hot foil plate because I like to just have everything prepared before I start filming. But I thought what I would do is I'm gonna film my prep for some projects that I'm gonna make. So I'm actually not gonna make the cards. I'm just gonna do the foiling. And so this video will be more about foiling tips. So I've got the glimmer machine here, and what I like to do is first thing, I just like to turn this on. There's a rocker switch at the back. You just turn this on and then you'll see a solid red light that just reminds you that it's actually on and it's heating up. I do that first, even before, I've got everything prepared because this needs a little bit of time to heat up. So we're going to give it some time to heat up. I've got actually not a foil plate, hot foil plate, but I've got a BetterPress plate, which works just fine also for foiling. And so I'm going to use this for my foil plate. And what I'm going to do is cut some foil to size. So what I'll do, I know Spellbinders has a specialty kind of mat that you can use, but I'm just going to use this because this is what I have. It's a self-healing mat and it's magnetic. So the nice thing about this is that I can put my foil plate on here just so that I can actually see that it covers my plate. I have enough to cover my plate, and then with the magnetic ruler what I can do is just set this again just a little bit off so that the foil that I'm cutting is going to be a little bit larger than my plate, and but not a ton because you don't want to waste it. It's not really necessary. So I am using the Spellbinders foil cutter, but I think a little craft knife will work just fine. This is really thin stuff. It just needs to be sharp so that it can cut through that plastic liner. That's mostly what you're cutting through because the foil itself is so thin. So this top edge here, you want to be careful not to kind of scratch it too badly, but this is the carrier. This is just plastic. The actual foil is on the underside of that. So we're looking at the pretty side, and this is the underside of the foil. Definitely you do not want to scratch this or touch it too much if you can help it. So with hot foiling, this is already, see that second light has come on, so it's ready to go. It's ready to start foiling. I'm just gonna let it sit there and do its thing, and it will auto shut off eventually, but we've got a little bit of time. I'm just gonna cut another bit of foil. When I foil, I just like to do a couple few so that while the machine is hot and I have everything out, I can just do a few panels and then give myself some options. So I'm just gonna cut maybe 3. I'll do one more because what I will demonstrate in this video is my favorite cardstock to foil, which is the Hammermill digital color copy paper. It's the same cardstock that I love alcohol marker coloring, and really the same property is what makes it great for foiling, which is that it is super smooth. Really smooth. It's bright white, which is also lovely, but it's really the smoothness of that cardstock that makes it an ideal candidate for foiling. So I'm not going to be super adventurous with color. We'll do the same foil, color of foil. And what I am going to change up is the cardstocks. So I'll do my Hammermill, which is my favorite. And then I'll do some color cardstock just so that you can see how that looks. And then I'm going to foil onto the Glimmer specialty paper, which if you're really, really struggling, that's going to be kind of your silver bullet. Hot foil works on heat and pressure. Unlike transfer foil, it doesn't require a medium, like a sticky medium, to grab the foil and transfer it to your substrate. So the pressure is going to be applied with a die cutting machine. I'm using the BetterPress machine because that's what I have that's small and ready to go. And so let's see, where did my panel that I cut go? So the first thing that I will foil onto is my glimmer. Not my glimmer paper, my Hammermill paper. So this is just Hammermill. It's super smooth, 100-pound cover. And I've got 2 panels ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I will take this foil and then I'm just going to put it on the bottom section of my panel here. So you can kind of see, because this plate doesn't cover the full A2. So I just need it to run a little bit like that. Be careful, this is hot. And so I'm just going to set that down. Now, this is hot, so don't touch this. The green light, the second green light, or the second light when it's solid green means that you can put your plate on. It's come up to temperature. You don't control the temperature. There's no setting for that. It's just ready or not. Once it's solid green, it means it's ready, and then you can put everything on here, your foil plate, your foil, and then your substrate or your cardstock panel. Then you want to hit the bottom button, and then you'll notice that the third light will flash green. That's the timer, and we don't control how long it goes for. You can still kind of control how long you leave your panel on the heat, but in terms of how long this blinks for, that's not something that's adjustable. It's just it's really simple, and that's kind of the nice thing about the Glimmer, because there's not a ton of different settings to try. It's just ready or not, hit the button. When that is solid and no longer blinking, then we can run it through our die cutting machine. Now on the BetterPress machine, there's a top dial which gives you like the big adjustments, and so this is on the letterpress 2D emboss setting. The bottom dial lets you do finer tuned adjustments of pressure, and I have left that at 0, so no adjustments. Now that that's solid, I can pull this out. And I don't like to go through my die cutting machine more than once. I just like to roll it through at a nice, steady, slow. You don't want to rush it. You just want that pressure to be nice and even as it's going through the rollers of your die cutting machine. I only like for it to go through the one time through, because if you try to pull it back, your plate might have shifted and you might get a little bit of ghosting of your design. So just be careful to lift this, and you can already see the impression that it's made. I like to do a hot peel, so I peel it before it's cooled, and Look at that. Perfect. A perfect foiling. Now these are just lines. It's kind of hard to tell if it was indeed super perfect, but I'll kind of bring this close up. You can see there's no extra foil clinging to the edges. All of those lines are really solid. If you have a little bit of not even really over foiling, but sometimes when you peel it off, some of the foil might just cling a little bit. You can just I just take a Swiffer cloth and then I just swipe. And that's usually enough to kind of clean up any foil that just clung a little bit too closely. But I didn't really have that with this. So that worked beautifully. I think that I would consider that a rather perfect foiling. I'll show you what we can do with this leftover piece later. Now what I want to switch to is let's foil onto some colored cardstock. I've got these Spellbinders colored cardstock. This is also 100-pound cover weight. And I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to position this. This will be like legal pad, like legal paper. So position this so that again, it's the foil is coming off the edges. And then I'm just going to try to get this straight onto my design or onto the plate. Like that. And then hit the timer. And I'll let that go. There's 2 glimmer plates. They don't really warp too much, but I still like to do, the trick of rotating them, flipping them every once in a while. I don't know that that's necessary, but it's probably not going to hurt anything to do that. And so we'll let that continue to go. And I'm not changing any settings on my machine, and I'm just going to let this go until it stops blinking, and then I'll go ahead and run it through my die cutting machine. There is a difference between the colored cardstock and the hammer mill. Just to feel it, if you have them both, you can feel the difference between them. The hammer mill cardstock is super smooth, really slick. This is solid, and it's smooth in that it doesn't have that sort of textured weave like that linen texture. So it is a smooth cardstock, but not all smooth cardstock is is equal. So same thing, I'm just gonna run this through nice and evenly and not gonna rush it. Now, foiling onto solid color cardstock can be a little bit hit or miss sometimes. And one thing that I have seen and experienced is that sometimes it also depends on your foil, the color of your foil too. Some foil a little bit more nicely than others, but that turned out really good. So now I've got some lined like a legal notepad. So there's that. And we have another bit of foil here. And you can see, look at how much foil is left versus how much transferred. There's a lot left. So next, all of that has foiled beautifully, I feel. We got some really great foiling. If you are struggling though, I would recommend giving the Spellbinders Glimmer Specialty Cardstock a try, because this isn't even 100-pound. It's thinner than the 2 that I just ran, but it's a synthetic cardstock. So when you feel this, it's actually even smoother than the hammer mill, because it's I don't want to say plasticky, but it kind of is. It's almost like Yupo paper. And so even though this is thinner and not quite as heavyweight as the 2 cardstocks that we used previously, which would mean that there's less pressure, going through the machine, you're going to see that it actually glimmers really beautifully. I'm not going to change the settings on my machine at all to account for this being a thinner cardstock. I'm just going to leave that setting the same, and I'm going to do the same thing where I just line up the foil. So you want the pretty side of the foil downwards, because the foil is actually on this side. This side here is just plastic carrier. So we want our foil to touch the panel, and I'll set that there, put the timer on, and then put my plates on. The other thing that I would say is when you put this panel down, if you look at it, it looks maybe a little crooked. So I don't think I did the best job of lining that up. I would not move it around too much, because once the plate is hot, it has a little bit of potential to actually start to transfer your the design to your cardstock. And so if you start nudging it around, it's happened to me before where I've moved it a little just to start straightening things up a little, and I get a little bit of ghosting that looks as if it's because I moved it, just in trying to get it to line up right. So since then, if I put it down and it's a little bit crooked, then the way I fix it is I just foil it crooked, and then I just trim my panel down and add like a little bit of a matte layer behind it. So I'd rather that than to actually have it have a ghosted image and then not be able to use it at all, because some of the foil already started to transfer. So let's see how this, so you can kind of see, look at this. So this is the Spellbinders specialty glimmer specialty paper. So I was off, you can kind of see at the bottom here, I was off, but not by a ton. But look at that. Beautiful, right? So now the question is, we've got a lot of these left over, 3 of them in fact. So what can we do with them? Well, you can actually transfer these as well. It's called negative foiling. So what I'm going to do is flip this to the back. So what you want to do is, if you have the glimmer machine, you will have gotten one of these. It's magnetic, and then this button drops it. So you just want to pick this up, flip it, be careful because it's hot, and then get that right back on. And so what's going to happen is this plate was already hot. That side was hot. But now that we've exposed it to air, more or less, this is losing heat a lot faster, because look, this has just a lot of thin lines. And so we're expecting heat to go from those thin lines and to heat up that solid plate. So it's going to take longer, because you're going from a small surface area and you're trying to heat up a large surface area. So when I do negative foiling, what I like to do is I like to give it some extra time, let it sit there for a little bit extra longer. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do negative foiling on those same 3 different cardstocks. So we'll start with Hammermill. And you're going to see that we might not get the same results, because all of 3 positive foiled just fine. But here's the proof in the pudding. You'll probably notice there'll be some differences when we do the negative foiling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit there, and I'm actually going to let it heat up with the plates on top. This helps to trap the heat a little bit better, so it's not losing as much heat. I'm also just going to let it sit there for a little bit extra longer. So I'm going to put the timer on, but when the timer stops, I'm going to let it go for another extra 10 seconds or so. And that's because negative foiling in any case can be a little bit hit or miss. And so to improve the chances of getting a good transfer, I just want to boost as much as possible the heat that is applied to the plate. And I want to also give myself a little bit of insurance by increasing the pressure. So on my beer craft machine, I have that micro dial where I can add a little bit of extra pressure. If you don't have a machine that lets you do that, you can add like a cardstock shim. And I would maybe go with like, say, another like 80-pound or 100-pound piece of cardstock. I'm going to set my dial to -2. So that makes it a little bit tighter, and it will apply more pressure. This is solid now. I'm just going to talk for a few extra seconds here so that we just give it a little bit of extra heat and hopefully improve the chances that we get a good negative foil, especially since there's a lot of foil left on here. So I need for that solid plate to really be super hot in order to get all of this. This is very nearly like a solid bit of foil left. So that's why it makes for a good test. So that has gone for a few extra seconds, and then I'm gonna roll this through again. I increase the pressure by using the dial on my machine. You can add a cardstock shim if you don't have a dial that lets you increase pressure. And it still rolls through nice and smoothly, so you don't want it super tight to where it's a struggle to crank through. I'm still rolling this through with ease. It's not that tight. And I do like to always plug this back in so that it can just continue to heat. Okay, so let's see how this did. I'll peel this back. Okay, so not perfect, but it's a little bit distressed, but a good amount. So look at how much foil we saved. And we've got another panel to work with. It's a little bit distressed, a little bit rough and ready, but that could be a look that we're going for. That was hammer mill. If I had to bet, my bet is going to be that the colored cardstock is going to be even more distressed, let's say, because this isn't quite as smooth as hammer mill, so I think it's going to probably struggle. But we're going to do as close to the exact same thing as possible. So I'm going to trap the heat with the plates on top. And once that is done, I will give it another 10 seconds or so. I wasn't looking at the clock last time, so I don't know exactly how long or how much extra I gave it, but we'll aim to give it maybe 10 seconds. And then the last thing will be the Glimmer specialty paper, and we'll see how that compares to these two. And in the past, what I have found is that the specialty Glimmer paper, it negative foils really well. And a lot of it has to do with the design. Some of it might even have to do with the color of foil, because some foils I feel transfer a little bit better than others. But I find if you really want to get a good negative transfer, the best odds would be to use the actual Spellbinders Glimmer specialty paper. I mean, you saw the positive foiling work just fine on the hammer mill and even solid color cardstock. And so you might not really need, and especially since the Glimmer specialty paper only comes in white, so you don't have the option of necessarily using a colored version, but you could always ink up that panel, the glimmer specialty paper, afterwards if you really wanted. That's another option to get a colored panel look to it. But because that specialty paper, it's a little bit more expensive than your regular white cardstock, and so yeah, see that? Not as good. You can see there's a lot more foil left. It's a lot more distressed. So here's a comparison. You can see so much more of the yellow on this as opposed to the white on here. So, and that's exactly what I would have predicted, which is just the nature of those cardstocks. One being the hammer mill being super duper smooth, and the solid color cardstock not so much. And they're both 100 pound, so they're both the same roughly thickness. Okay, last one. This is the Glimmer Specialty, and we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna line this up and put it down on the plate. Get the timer going. I'm gonna put the plates on now. Keep it nice and toasty. And we'll see how this one does. This is all at the same setting, which is more tight. So on this machine, I set it to -2. Now, here's the thing. This hammer mill one kind of was close to being perfect, but I don't think that more pressure would have helped it a ton, but it might help to improve it a little bit. So with this one, if I really wanted this look, but I really wanted it to be nice and tidy, I would try this again, but it would mean foiling another positive panel and then foiling the negative. And I would try it at a setting where it's even tighter, just to see if that helps. This is solid, but I'm going to give it a little extra time. This one, I don't think you can really improve this by too much. It's just, you might marginally be able to improve it, but I don't even think more pressure would get it to this level. So it's just something that I wanted to do for the video, just for demonstration purposes, but I actually never tried to negative foil onto colored cardstock, because already it can be not really hit or miss, but I would say from my experience with the Spellbinders papers, I about 80% of the time get like a really near perfect or perfect foiling on colored cardstock. With my hammer mill, I get probably closer to 95-99%. I won't say 100% because sometimes it doesn't always transfer perfectly. But those are very, very rare occasions with the hammer mill paper. And with the Glimmer Specialty paper, it's like 100% consistent positive foiling. I've never really had a panel go wrong. But the negative, I almost always, if I'm going to try to save that remnant foil and do negative foiling, I almost always reach for this specialty paper, because it's the most likely, even above and beyond my hammer mill, which I love, it's the most likely to yield a good result. And so I just go straight to that. So we'll see how this one did. So there's that. And look at that. It's perfect. Clean as a whistle. Okay, I got one little speck of foil left here, but otherwise, so the proof was in the pudding. I'm gonna turn this off, and we'll get a close-up look at everything that we foiled just now. So I'll clear this off so that there's a little bit more room. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this just so that you can kind of see the design. It's a really simple design, but it's got nice thin lines, so it helps us to kind of gauge things a little bit. So I foiled, this is Hammermill, this is obviously my colored cardstock, this is the Glimmer Specialty. So let's bring all of those up close. Hammermill, colored cardstock, Glimmer Specialty. So, I mean, they all did really well. So because all of these did really well, honestly, because the specialty Glimmer Specialty paper is the most expensive out of all of this, I wouldn't really use it for positive foiling. If I just want, some, basic foiling onto white cardstock, I'm just going to use my Hammermill. And in fact, you can kind of see it's sort of overfoiled a little bit on those edges there. You can actually see those lines at the edge are a little bit thicker than towards the center. See, a little bit thicker. So I'm just gonna wipe this and see if maybe that's just loose foil. So now see how it's a little bit more even. Here we have the same thing here. See how it's a little bit ragged, a little bit thicker at the edge there. So let's see if that's just extra foil that's clung on. So I'll wipe it. Nope, that's actually, it looks like, I think that's actually over foiled, where it's foiled a little bit beyond what the design is, because it should be like a nice crisp line like at the top there, but if you look at the bottom, it gets thicker and a little bit jaggy. This is the Glimmer Specialty. I mean, it foiled beautifully, it just overfoiled a smidge. This, I would say, my Hammermill, it actually got perhaps better results because the lines are actually consistent and thinner. So this is Hammermill. This is the Glimmer Specialty. So if we look at these edges down here, see how thin and consistent that is? Whereas this is overfoiled. So the specialty paper, it foils so easily that overfoiling is actually more of a concern typically than underfoiling. You have kind of the reverse with anything other than the specialty glimmer paper. Usually the biggest problem, typically anyhow, in my experience, has been underfoiling, where not enough of the foil transferred. So for positive foiling, I feel like I like to save my money. Sometimes I even get better results with Hammermill. But if you are not using Hammermill and you're struggling and you don't want to try Hammermill, maybe try the Glimmer Specialty paper, because it's definitely going to work for you. You don't have to struggle. Now, we did the positive foiling with it like this. And then I flipped this to the back so I have a nice solid plate now. And then we foiled the negative. So taking the foil that was left over, I just foiled onto another panel of Hammermill. The same colored cardstock and the Glimmer Specialty. Now here's where kind of makes sense to get and use the Glimmer Specialty paper, because look at how near perfect. I have just like that spot right there that didn't transfer. But otherwise, this is a near perfect foiling. And same die cutting machine pressure setting. This is even thinner. This is only 76 pound. Both of these are 100 pound. But it's just because it's a synthetic paper, so the material just is it's Spellbinder's paper, so they formulated it, they designed it so that it just more easily will accept the foiling. And so look at how almost perfect that is. this is worth the extra money to pay for if it means that you get to use up all of your foil. Because now look, I don't have to throw away nearly any foil, because this was from the yellow panel. This was from Hammer Mill. You can see how much foil is left on the carrier. And this was from the Glimmer Specialty. Look at how clear that is. Basically used every little bit of foil. So I feel like it, I think I mentioned this earlier, I never attempt this. I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes for you all, just so that you can see, because sometimes seeing is believing. So I never attempt to negative foil onto colored cardstock, because, just this alone, the positive foiling can sometimes be hit or miss. So I would never attempt that. I pretty much, because this actually is really representative of my results, even for other designs and other colored foil, I almost always just go straight to the specialty glimmer paper, and it's not always perfect either, even with the specialty glimmer paper. So I just figured that enough times I've seen this very distressed look, and if that's not what I'm going for, then I just hop straight to this, because I know the specialty paper is going to maximize the chances of a really good negative foiling. Whereas if I don't care maybe as much, and I think a distressed look will actually be better, then I'll save my specialty glimmer paper, because it is a little bit more expensive, and then I'll just use my Hammer Mill, because I know that I'll get like a decent result. Like this is maybe, what would you say, is that like maybe 90%, maybe even more. So it's good enough, and the distressing is rather even. It's not like it's distressed in one spot. It's pretty even, but that's the difference. It's pretty night and day almost. But yeah, that I would definitely not try. I don't even go for that. But yeah, so those are the results. That is hopefully a little bit helpful if you had questions about how to do the negative foiling, because I think that was the context that I posed the question, and some folks left comments on my previous flip video saying they wouldn't mind seeing a tutorial on how to do this negative foiling, and so I hope that that's helpful. If you have tips also, then let us all know in the comments below. If you've got some good tips and tricks that you've learned from your hot foiling experience, then I hope you'll share them with all of us, because I'm always eager to learn. If you have a tip to get this to work, I've never been able to get negative foiling on colored cardstock to work well for me, and so sometimes maybe with my black cardstock, but that's not a given. And so I would love to know if you've got other tips and tricks. And if you have other questions, let me know that in the comments too. I can't guarantee that I'll know the answer, but if I can help you, I will definitely try. So thanks so much. I'm not going to actually make cards in this video, since I did this in real time. It's going to be a little bit long. So I'm going to save the card making for another video, or maybe I'll just make it off camera and share to Instagram. So thanks for checking out this one, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.